What is going on, everyone? Mets Talk with Hayden J here. I hope everyone is doing extremely well. I am most certainly doing well on this phenomenal day. All is going well with me, as stated. As the New York Mets, well, they're doing what the Mets should be doing. And the New York Mets have had a phenomenal time since we did a regular Mets Talk live stream last, as they swept the Cleveland Guardians. That is right. They took games 1, 2, and 3 from the Cleveland Guardians. So that is always good to see. Super, super excited to hear about that. It's crazy. A week ago today, everyone was going off. Everyone was going, crazy, triggered. And it really goes to show you how bipolar baseball is. I mean, the span of a week, attitudes turn around completely. So, hey, I'm not complaining. I'm happy about that. But in today's stream, we are going to be going over the New York Mets and the Cleveland Guardians series summary, summarizing the good. And, I mean, really not much bad and ugly to summarizing it. But we'll talk about everything that happened in that, and then we are going to preview the New York Mets and the Chicago Cubs series preview, go over the Mets farm system, Mets news, Mets roster, and of course, all of your guys' comments, questions, concerns. If you guys have anything related to the New York Mets, or I guess any other organization, we definitely can discuss that. Otherwise, that's really all I got for my introduction. Before we get started, smash that like button, turn on the post notifications, tell your friends about this channel, and all of that great stuff. So let's stop wasting any more time, and I guess let's dive into it. So diving into it, the New York Mets, like I said, were able to sweep the Cleveland Guardians. And hey, I am very, very happy about that. The attitude, as stated, of this team has changed quite a lot. And with that said, getting into game one, the New York Mets won this game by a score of 10-9. Definitely something interesting to witness. Getting things started, you had Carlos Carrasco start this game, and by far, Carrasco had a cruddy start. And something that we've seen from this Mets team throughout this whole season is that when their starting pitchers have a crappy start, it's most likely going to result in an L. But that wasn't the case for the Mets. Carrasco had a shitty start, 5 innings, 5 hits, 5 runs, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. First inning complexities, velocity was low. The same stuff we've seen with Carrasco. He fooled everyone in AAA. It is what it is. Hopefully it's his first start back. He'll shake it off. We'll see how he goes down the line. Not much to say with Carrasco. He just didn't really look good. Following that, Dominic Leone came in, an inning, 4 hits, 2 runs. And then really after that, the bullpen worked a lot. Nagosic, Hunter, Ottavino, Robertson looked really good. Drew Smith put it into a high-leverage situation, wasn't able to get the job done. I wonder what the analytics say about that. The pitching didn't do the best. But from what we've seen is their offense backed them up, and that's what this Mets offense should be doing. 10 runs, 12 hits for this New York Mets team, getting things started in the 5th inning. Francisco Alvarez has a solo home run to left center, 413 feet. You'd like to see that. A couple of bats later, Jeff McNeil had an RBI single to right to bring in Francisco Lindor. Following that, in the 6th inning, Brett Beatty had a solo homer to left, 368 feet. And then in the 7th inning, to really break open this game, Pete Alonso had a grand slam, his first on the season, to tie this game up. Obviously, grand slam to right center, 400 feet on the dot to bring in Nimmo, Lindor, McNeil, and, of course, himself. We talk about the definition of clutch. What a week for Alonso it's been. So really tip of the cap to Alonso there. Mets go into extra innings, and they battled. They were down 2 runs in the bottom of the 10th, and Mark Vientos has an RBI single to center to bring in Beatty. A couple of bats later, Francisco Alvarez, the game on the line, has an RBI single to left to bring in Eduardo Escobar. And then to win it, Francisco Lindor has an RBI single to right to bring in Francisco Alvarez. So the Francisco boys are doing some stuff, and Lindor does it against Cleveland, his former team. So that was really good to see. Definitely an inspirational walk-off. Gary Cohen, the booth was hyped, and Citi Field was electric. So by far, one of the most exciting games of the Mets this season. And I mean, all the really exciting games have happened in the span of a week. So that was game one. Do not worry, guys. I will get into your comments. If you could try and hold off so I could get to them. So getting into game 2, the New York Mets win game 2 by a score of 5-4. As stated, Max Scherzer comes in and pitches a phenomenal gem, a nice quality start for Max Scherzer, something that is needed. What does Max Scherzer do? He goes 6 innings, 3 hits, no runs, a walk, and 5 strikeouts, 86 pitches. He looked phenomenal. As stated, didn't give up a run, lowered his ERA, his whip, all those sabermetrics, and you like to see that. Scherzer was definitely in need of lowering a lot of those stats. So Scherzer looked good. His slider looked good. His command looked good. He didn't let any balls get away from him, and that's something that really was big for Scherzer. He wasn't overthrowing. That was another thing that we've seen in a lot of past starts, is not to overthrow. Scherzer has stated he looked good. He mixed up his pitches. He didn't overthrow. Tip of the cap to Scherzer. He looked good. Brooks Raley came in for an inning, 9 pitches. 7 of those were in the strike zone. Tip of the cap to Brooks Raley. I mean, he's been working on a light load. He's coming back from injury, so Buck Showalter's not trying to, I guess, fully destroy him. But definitely a really nice appearance there from Brooks Raley. His cutter looked good, so that's a good thing for him. Adam Ottavino, starting to get a little frustrating with him. Ottavino, 2/3 of an inning, 3 hits, 3 runs, blows this game and gives the Guardians the lead. Ottavino gets booed off the field. He's been a guy who, obviously I don't think is going to play to what he did last year. We know how elite Ottavino was last year. And, relievers are streaky. Those are guys that you really have to look at year by year. And I'm not expecting Adam Ottavino to have a year like he did last year. If he can give me a sub 250, sub 3 ERA, I'll take it. But I'm not expecting what he did last year. But he didn't look good. David Robertson came in, obviously an inning and a third, 2 hits and a run. But the Mets offense is once again where they helped out. The Mets offense did what they needed to do. You had Eduardo Escobar in the 4th inning. Escobar had an RBI single to right to bring in Daniel Vogelbach. In the 6th inning, Gary Sanchez, crazy enough, he's a New York Met, hit a sac fly to center to bring Pete Alonso in. Good base running by Alonso, good awareness, good hustle. And then in the 7th inning, Brandon Nimmo had a solo home run to right center, 442 feet. So good to see Nimmo. First pitch off of Eli Morgan. He takes that. And then in the 8th inning, clutch hitting by Starling Marte. Starling Marte has a 2-run homer to right center to bring in himself and Brett Beatty. So clutch hitting from this Mets team. Mets win 5-4. Robertson gets the W. Unfortunately, Scherzer couldn't get it, but Robertson got it. And then, by the way, in the first game, Drew Smith got the W. So Drew Smith gets the W in the first game. Second game is David Robertson. And the third and final game of this 3-game set against the Cleveland Guardians, Sunday Night Baseball, it was a pitcher's duel by no means. Justin Verlander against Shane Bieber. And it was a pitching duel, as stated. Getting things started, Justin Verlander pitched another quality start. 8 innings, 3 hits, a run, 0 walks, and 5 strikeouts. This by far was the best outing that we have seen from Justin Verlander as a New York Met. When Steve Cohen signed Scherzer and Verlander in the offseason and paid him all this money, it's the starts like this is why they get paid. And if they could give me 75% of their starts to do something like this, then damn, that's a scary ball club. Verlander looks good. First inning complexity, something that's usual for him. He gave up a long ball in the first inning, but then retired and kept everyone quiet after that. Mixed up his pitches, pounded the strike zone, plenty of whiffs, plenty of swinging and misses, and he was unhittable. So, really, really liked the appearance from JV. And then Brooks Raley came in for an inning, his second inning of the day. 5 pitches, 2 of those were in the strike zone. So, obviously, Raley looked good. He got a ground ball, hit a batter, and then a ground ball. So really the quickest save, I would say, probably for the Mets this season. Pitching looked good. Offense was quiet, but their pitching backed up, and they did just the job that was needed to. Obviously, in the 6th inning, Francisco Lindor has a solo homer to center, 404 feet, to give the Mets a tie. And then to break open this ball game in the bottom of the 8th, Jeff McNeil does what Jeff McNeil does best. And he hits the ball. He makes contact with the runner on third. Jeff McNeil had a sac fly to left to bring in Starling Marte to give this a 2-1 lead. The Mets were able to hold on. Verlander gets the win. Raley gets his first save. So the Mets sweep the 3-game set against the Cleveland Guardians, and I'm happy with what I saw. We saw clutch hitting with 2 outs and runners in scoring position, and power. Power is the biggest thing that we've seen from this New York Mets team this past week. And it goes to show you the small ball approach, the small ball mentality, manufacturing runs does not work. This team needs to hit line drives, power, and home runs. And you see what happens when they do. They win ball games. And then on the other side, because, it's 50-50, you're pitching held down the fort. They were giving you quality starts. They were going at least 5, 6, 7, 8 innings, only giving up 1 to 3 runs. If your pitching is going to go out there and go, 2 1/3 and, give up 6 runs, it's going to be hard to win ball games. So tip of the cap, everyone contributed. Everyone in the lineup, 1 through 9. Whether it was Nimmo in the leadoff spot or Alvarez in the 9th spot or Alonso in the 4th spot, everyone in that lineup contributed. And everyone out there that pitched contributed. So that is really what I like to see from this Mets and Guardians series. Phenomenal. Mets sweep it. Guardians, like a team I said, don't hit a lot of home runs, manufacture runs, and the Mets were able to, beat off of them on it. So tip of the cap, Mets are now going into a new series. And that is because the New York Mets are going out to Chicago. They're going to the friendly confines for a 3-game set at Wrigley Field, which starts tonight, 7:40 Eastern Standard Time. Heading into the series, the New York Mets are 25-23, 13-14 on the road. Obviously, the Mets are red hot. They're 5-0 in their last 5 games, so you like to see that. However, the Chicago Cubs have not had the best of luck. They are 20-26, 11-11 on home. The Cubs have, had some complexities the last couple weeks. They started off the season pretty good, but, they just haven't been looking phenomenal, really, the last couple weeks. Obviously, they lost the series against the Phillies, lost the series against the Astros, and, they've just been getting beat up a lot. Their pitching hasn't been holding down the fort, and, in the games that they do win, they're very close games. So, not an ideal appearance for the Chicago Cubs. Cubs, keep in mind, swept the Mets last year at Citi Field, so the Mets are going to hopefully go in for some revenge. Obviously, getting started tonight, 7:40. You will have Tyler McGill on the bump for the New York Mets. McGill has had back-to-back really good starts, and you're hoping that McGill can hopefully carry that over. McGill, obviously, on the season so far is 5-2 with a 3.88 ERA, a 1.42 WHIP. And then obviously this season he's pitched 46 1/3 innings pitched, 43 hits, 35 strikeouts, 23 walks, and 6 homers. So obviously taking away, from taking an examination of those stats, the biggest thing with McGill is going to be to pound the strike zone. Pound the strike zone and limit the walks. Because we see McGill's, early on in the season has been having big complexities finding the strike zone. And the last thing you want to do as a pitcher is walk guys. And then if you give up home runs, you walk 2, you give up a 3-run homer. Boom, that sucks. McGill can keep the ball on the ground and continue to strike out guys. You notice he's not striking out guys at an incredible rate, but he's getting a lot of ground balls. And I'll take that because you have a great defense behind you to back you up. So McGill, expectations, 5-6 innings would be a nice maximum, minimize it to maybe 2 runs, ideally. So we'll see how McGill can go, mix up his pitches, keep the slider intact, keep the stride in effect, and you can hopefully expect a nice outing from McGill. But the Cubs will have the lefty and Drew Smyly on the mound. And Drew Smyly has been having a pretty solid season for them so far. The Mets have been having some complexities hitting against left-handed pitching. As stated, the Mets have not been having the best time hitting against lefties. I don't know what it is, but, we saw it in 2021. They just had so much of complexities hitting against lefties, and you're kind of seeing that a little bit this season. So I guess essentially you hope that they can kind of fix that sooner rather than later. I think that's just going to be, like I said, with new guys coming in. Obviously, we know guys like Vogelbach can't hit against lefties. He's not going to be getting any more starts soon. And Escobar has been hitting against lefties pretty well. So that's hopefully the Mets can get up on that statistic. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. And that will be 7:40 tonight. Getting into game 2, which is tomorrow's game, which is Wednesday, 7:40. The New York Mets will have Kodai Senga. Senga was moved a day back to get the rest. Senga is looking good, 4-2 on the season, 3.77 ERA, 1.44 WHIP. So far this season, he's pitched 43 innings, 36 hits, 55 strikeouts, 26 walks, and 6 homers. As stated, those are pretty good stats. Senga has been having a good, pretty solid season, kind of what's been expected. Sorry about that. As stated, Senga's been having a pretty good season. I guess the biggest thing with Senga that's going to be is the strike zone. Finding command of the strike zone, because you know, back-to-back times I say some of these Mets pitchers have complexities finding the strike zone with control and location, and you need to work on that. Senga keeps the ball in the ballpark, which is nice. And the ghost fork ball is a nasty pitch, but lately he's evolving it and he's making it go in the strike zone more. Because we notice it's a good put-away pitch, but he throw it below the strike zone in 3-2 count. You're the batter. Well, what are you going to expect? Well, now he's pitting it on the strike zone, so they're going to have to swing at it, and it's a hard pitch to hit. So if Senga can continue to throw the ghost fork ball in the strike zone and get those ground ball outs and strike out guys at an elite level, we saw his last appearance, he struck out 12, which was the best for him this season, then we could definitely expect a good outing from Kodai Senga. Obviously, the Chicago Cubs will have Marcus Stroman. Stroman hasn't been having the best season. He's been struggling a little bit lately. So we'll see what the Mets can do against Stroman. They were able to get the W off of him last year at Wrigley Field, but we'll see what the Mets could do against Stroman this year. And then game 3 in the final game of this 3-game set, which is Thursday's game, 7:40. This is probably going to be the most mid game ever and probably going to give 1,000 runs. It's probably going to be like a 30-30 game. The Mets will have Carlos Cookie Carrasco on the bump. Carrasco has been, I'm not even going to read the stats because they're really that bad. Carrasco, first inning complexities, just has a hard time getting settled in. Long ball, command of the strike zone isn't there. Control of the strike zone isn't there. You really hope it's his second time back. He can try and get into a groove, get into his grind, and keep the Mets in the ball game. And the reason I'm a little bit optimistic is because the Cubs have Jameson Taillon, who really has been struggling so far. He has 8 starts and 0-3, 8.10 ERA, 1.73 WHIP. And in those 8 starts, he hasn't been going very far into games, only 2-3 innings, 26 2/3, 36 hits, 27 strikeouts, 10 walks, 5 homers. So those are not good numbers for Taillon. Cubs signed him this offseason to, kind of help and boost that rotation, and they haven't been seeing very good results from Jameson Taillon. And I guess you really hope that the Mets can, try and get this game in their favor. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is a very high-scoring game. So like I said, if, the Mets bats can help out Carrasco, hopefully they can definitely expect some good stuff there. And then that is going to be the Mets and Cubs series. As stated, it's a 3-game set. Coming into this, the Cubs, as stated, are 1-4 in their last 5. The Mets are 5-0 in their last 5. Looking at this Cubs team, this is a Cubs team who hits for a decent average, has a hard time driving in runs, hits for similar power to the Mets, gets on base, but their pitching staff has been really disappointing. I think this is a team who has a much better offense than pitching staff. This team's pitching staff has not been the best. So, I guess the Mets are really going to have to try and tackle onto that. Ideally, I'd like to take 2 or 3. I'm not optimistic about tonight's start, but hopefully McGill proves me wrong and the Mets could get a little bit off of Smiley. But ideally, I'm thinking they'll take 2 and 3. So that is what I am going to argue for this upcoming series for the New York Mets and the Chicago Cubs. I am projecting they are going to take 2 out of 3 from the Chicago Cubs. So that is the New York Mets and the Cleveland Guardians series summary and the New York Mets and the Chicago Cubs series preview. Obviously, we got a lot of good things to look forward to. A week of baseball has definitely changed the attitude, the atmosphere, and the chemistry for this New York Mets team. So now, if you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, anything you want to drop in the comment section below, feel free to. Anything that could be about the Mets, whatever other baseball organization essentially you guys want to discuss, any comments, questions, things that would spark interest, feel free to drop it in the comment section below, and we will get into it. But yeah, like I said, let's stop wasting any more time with that, and let's dive into it. Ryan, what's going on? Mark, Lane, Ruben, what's going on? Explosive. I am going to wear a Mets hat. Trey, Alex, Seth, Robert Medfred. Thank you for tuning in, man. Alyssa, Cal, Kobe. Yeah, absolutely. Vibes are going great now, Kobe. Gio, good to see you, man. Trey says, what's going on, Trey, with our first big comment of the day. He says, I've said it once again, and I'll say it again. The front office needs to start setting the lineups because Buck cannot be trusted. Alvarez sitting after a day off. Escobar in the 2-hole. This man is unserious. I agree with you to an extent on that. With Escobar, if you look at his numbers against Drew Smiley, I originally said the same thing. When I looked at the lineup, I was like, what's the thing with Escobar? Immediately went to StatMuse, which shows you good statistics from like players against pitchers. And apparently Escobar, Eduardo Escobar has really good numbers against Drew Smiley. And I will read those to you guys versus Drew Smiley, whatever his name is. Escobar versus Smiley. MLB. I can't find it, but point is he has pretty good numbers. I think he's like 8 for 14 with like 3 home runs and like 6 RBIs, something like that. So I could see where that's coming from. But yeah, I agree. Francisco Alvarez obviously hasn't caught in the last 4 days. Obviously there was an off day yesterday. We know that there was a report a couple days ago, but Escobar or that Alvarez was a little tired, worn out, and obviously once again he is not catching. Yeah, not thrilled. I don't really know the point with Buck. One thing, and we'll get into it a little bit more down the line, but it comes to the point of Captain Morgan and Kobe are saying, why is Buck Showalter hesitant on playing the starting kids? And that's something that we've seen a lot from Buck this season. Even when Beatty first got called up and Alvarez, and you can even argue with Vientos right now, we're seeing it too. I don't know why necessarily Buck Showalter is so hesitant on starting those guys and what Buck Showalter sees in guys like Daniel Vogelbach and Tommy Pham. Daniel Vogelbach offers absolutely nothing. He's the most useless player on this New York Mets team. He does not play a position. He offers no power that we've been seeing. He doesn't swing the bat. And everyone says, oh, well, he's a decent OBP guy. Lately, he hasn't been, but in the beginning of the season, he was walking. Okay, he gets on base. He's not a threat. He's a station-to-station guy. He's never stolen a base in his major league career. He's not a threat on the base pass. He offers nothing. I don't know what's the point of throwing in Vogelbach. Tommy Pham offers nothing. He had what? He had 2 good games this year where he went 3 for 4. Otherwise, offers nothing. Play the kids. I really want to see this lineup consist of Beatty, Vientos, and Alvarez at least 5 out of the 7 days. Because I'd much rather go out there and see Beatty in left field than Pham and Vientos DHing than Vogelbach. I don't know why. And Buck Showalter is going to come to the point where he's going to start noticing he's starting guys like Alvarez, Beatty, and Vientos, and they're going to be contributing, and the Mets are going to win games. Or hopefully, contribute. And then he's going to start guys like Viento, or he's going to start guys like Vogelbach and Pham, and they're going to, be a liability to this lineup. And Showalter's eventually going to have to get through his head, this isn't working out. And, if our favorite man, Billy Epler, has any common sense, he would pick up on that and say, Buck, no more. So, yeah, we will see. Really don't know why, but it is what it is. Yeah, Yankees have been struggling with injuries. That is true. Peter, what's going on? Peter says, what a massive week for the Mets. After a brutal stretch, they go 5-1 against the Rays and Guardians with multiple late-game heroic comebacks. This week felt more like the 2022 Mets that won 101 games. 100%. I mean, if you look at this Mets team, this is the team. This week looked like how everything was last year. Hitting with runners in scoring position, hitting with 2 outs, pitching great. The never say die Mets, and that's what they looked like. Great comebacks, walk-offs. That's what it looks like. And hopefully it sticks. Yeah, hopefully, Lane. Hopefully the Mets can, like I said, win the series. A sweep would be nice. Mad Max, absolutely. Cal says, I'm sure it's just a coincidence it started when the kids were giving the reins. Yeah, I tell you, man. It took Billy Epler long enough. Timothy, what's going on? He says, should the Mets trade Lucchesi, Hamill, Vassell, 2 other single A players, and cash for the Reds for Alexis Diaz? Yeah, I mean, right now we know that there's been talks. We know that there's been talks of Alexis Diaz being a contender for the Mets to go after. Obviously, the Reds are a team that probably won't be contending just yet. I think they'll be a little bit better than what they were last year, and we've been seeing that. But I don't think the Reds are quite there yet. I think maybe another year or two. I think they have decent pieces. But yeah, I think regardless of him being Edwin Diaz's brother, I think he's a great guy. I think he'd be a great bullpen arm. He's very similar to his brother, high strikeout rate guy, filthy stuff. So yeah, I wouldn't be against. Personally, I don't think you'd have to give up that much for Alexis Diaz, unless the Reds would give someone else along with Alexis Diaz. But yeah, I mean, I would definitely be in favor of a trade for Alexis Diaz. Considering you don't really know what the closer role is going to look like. Robertson has been looking great as a closer, which I mean, yeah, Robertson has been looking great as a closer. But how long could that last? Obviously, you want a whole lot more depth. We've been noticing this bullpen is very overtaxed. Yes, guys are going longer into games, but still. Lane says, can the Mets go 8-1 on the road? Well, I don't think you can because you're only playing 6 games. So maybe you can go 5-1, which I would like that. And yeah, we did go over that. I'm not really sure, maybe because it was an ESPN game. But it was nice, I guess. Timothy says, should the Mets call up Mauricio from the minors if McNeil, Canna, Guillorme gets hurt and is placed in the injured list? I mean, I wouldn't be against calling up Mauricio regardless. I don't trust Canna and I don't trust Guillorme. I would leave Guillorme in AAA. Guillorme contributes nothing. Like I said, he's another slap the ball approach guy, and the Mets have too many of those in this lineup with McNeil and Nimmo. And Canna just has been looking awful this year. And it seems that Buck isn't making him an everyday player. He's this 4th outfielder now. And yeah, I mean, maybe down the line, if the Mets offense gets a little bit quiet still, maybe you can call it Mauricio. I think that could be a possibility. Cal says, get the brooms out, folks. Love it. Absolutely. Stoney, what's going on? He says, what's the Cubs record and is Senga pitching tonight? So the Cubs are 20-26. So they are 6 games under 500. And Senga is not pitching tonight. Tonight, obviously, will be Tyler McGill. So that'll be a nice little start for Tyler McGill. Kodai Senga will be pitching tomorrow. Why isn't Senga pitching tonight? I think it's because of rest. Jack in the Box says the Mets have been very clutch this past week. Really goes to show how important home runs are for this team. Absolutely. And I've said it 1,000 times. Power, power, power. This is not 1975 anymore. The Mets need power. The small ball, slap the ball, contact approach does not work in Major League Baseball today. People are like, oh, the Cleveland Guardians have it. Yeah, how are the Guardians? They're like 7 games under 500. Look at the Rays. I mean, freaking first place, and they have like 80-something home runs in 50 games. I mean, are you kidding me? So I like the mentality of line drives, the Chili Davis mentality, line drive mentality, power mentality. And prior to the kids being called up, the Mets really only relied on power from Alonso and, a little bit of Lindor. But now you add guys like Alvarez, Vientos, and Beatty to that lineup, guys who, listen, even if they're not going to hit 30 home runs, 40 home runs a season, they're going to hit balls hard. You're going to see a hard exit velocity, a good launch angle, extra base hits. And that's what this team needs. So, yeah, I mean, we're going to see how it goes. But, yeah, absolutely, Jack. You're absolutely right. Next shift, what's going on? Appreciate you tuning in. Seth says thoughts on the Baltimore Orioles City Connect jerseys. I don't like them. I think they kind of look like the Great Britain jerseys from the WBC. I think they look pretty ugly. Do you DFA Vogelbach? Do you Mets need to get rid of Vogelbach? Yeah, I mean, Lane and Michael, I think if you look at it right now, Vogelbach has just not been a contributor for this team. Billy Epler failed by no means. This guy contributes nothing. He's the most useless player on this roster. I mean, he's a big dude, and that's fine. I have nothing with that. But looking at his track record and his career, I expect him to be a power hitter. This is a guy who's hit 30 home runs in a season, 40 home runs in a season. And right now, he has 2 home runs this season, and they've both been in useless games that determine nothing. Vogelbach does not swing the bat. He stands there, takes strike 1, strike 2, strike 3 right down the dick, and he stands there. He doesn't swing the bat, and it's very hard to hit home runs when you don't swing the bat. And then arguably, people in the beginning of the season, oh, well, Vogelbach, he's getting on base. He's an OBP guy. I don't care. Okay, he gets on base. Tell me, is he a threat on the base paths? He's never stolen a base in his major league career. He's not a threat. He's a station-to-station guy. And you see, he's made stupid base running mistakes that cost the team. He doesn't play a position. He offers nothing. He's useless. I may as well go out there and leave the bat on my shoulders and go 0 for 4. And, what's the point? So, yeah, I absolutely say the Mets should do something with Vogelbach. Because it's exhausting. And you notice Buck doesn't even, he's playing like once every 7 games a week. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see some, time where we're not seeing Vogelbach, and I don't blame him. If Vogelbach isn't going to, do anything and swing the bat, he doesn't pull the ball, which is something I do blame on the Mets organization, but whatever. But what's the point? And same can go for Canna too, The Mets are getting serious. If guys are not playing well, they're being benched. We saw it. Guillorme sent down to AAA Syracuse. Canna has been a 4th outfielder for the past 2 weeks. They're not playing him because he's not playing well. Vogelbach, starting DH lately, Vientos took over that spot. And if Buck doesn't think Vientos is more deserving of the DH spot than Vogelbach, then that's very sad. LFGM. Trey, what's going on? He says, don't you guys get tired with the same baby whining story? Literally never fails because the catcher, Nito Perez Sanchez, starts 2 of 7 games. Maybe in a week, you'll start fuming as per usual. Alvarez has been starting most games in a row. And Trey, I agree with you on that. I'm not saying that. And I agree. I think, listen, Alvarez isn't going to start every game. I would say as of right now, if he could start 4 of 7, 5 of 7, like you said, that's fine. And then you have guys like Perez and Sanchez back him up. That's fine. But the only thing I will say is when I'm hearing people saying that Francisco Alvarez is going to go back down to AAA Syracuse when Tomas Nido comes back. If that happens, Billy Epler needs to be fired for that because that is the most fucking ridiculous thing I've heard. And when I read that, I thought it was a joke. I thought it was a meme account. The guy who has literally been a huge contributor to your team's success this season. Tomas Nido is the most useless. I say useless. Is probably the 2nd or 3rd most useless player on this lineup. His bat doesn't offer anything. He's hitting like 110, OBP of like 100, OPS of like 300. He's essentially offering you nothing. And his defense behind the plate isn't even worthy of keeping him in the lineup. I don't care if he had that vision issue. Regardless, his bat looks horrible. He chases 10 feet off the shoulder. The catcher's sliding 3 feet to his left to get the ball, and Nito's swinging. I'm like, dude, play discipline much? And, you can't say that's the odd thing because Nito's always been having horrible play discipline. What Alvarez has done so far in 20 games is pretty much what Nito and McCann combined last year couldn't even get near. Alvarez has earned himself this spot. Offensively, good power bat. His play discipline has improved 1,000,000%. He looks phenomenal offensively. Hits for power, line drive mentality. Defensively, oh my God, this dude is one of the best defensive catchers in baseball right now. Go to Baseball Savant. The framing metrics say he is. So, yeah. As of right now, Alvarez should get that spot. And, why did the Mets extend Nito to that 2-year deal? I see someone asked in the chat. I think a big thing to that was because I think Billy Epler didn't think Alvarez would be as ready going into the season and that you'd have Nito going into this year. And maybe Alvarez would come up next year and really be a contributor, but he's contributing now. I'll tell you, in spring training, I mean, he was, whatever offensively, defensively, he was average, but defensively, I mean, this dude has improved so much. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty good to see. Trey, what's going on? Trey says Alvarez has started. Timothy says, should the Mets trade Daniel Vogelbach to the Giants for Taylor Rogers and prospect Luis Matos? I mean, I don't really think the Giants are going to want Vogelbach. I don't really think he's going to offer much. Taylor Rogers is a decent guy. Like I said, the Giants right now haven't been having the best of season, and obviously we've been seeing they have guys, obviously Michael Conforto, J.D. Davis, Mitch Haniger. They brought in a couple guys this offseason, and yeah, I don't know. Giants haven't been looking good. I wouldn't be surprised if they were a seller at the deadline. Maybe the Mets could potentially try and leech off of, go after. So keep an eye out. The Giants, the White Sox. Those are two teams that definitely arguably could be selling. Lane says, are the Mets going to be wearing their City Connect jerseys for this year? No. I don't know when they will get them. Maybe next year or the year after. Sports fan says, what's the news on Edwin Diaz getting for the 2023 Mets? Yeah, I mean, nothing's really new for Diaz. I mean, I think right now, probably he's going to he was riding a bicycle a couple weeks ago, so he's kind of in recovery rehab mode. And, yeah, I mean, hopefully, the reports he may come back in October. I don't know about that, but we'll keep an eye out. Kobe says, Scherzer and Verlander back-to-back pitching gems was what I love to see. Great 1-2 punch. Exactly. And, I mean, that's what Steve Cohen and Billy Epler went after. They're going after that. Those exact things is what they're trying to go after. So, yeah, hopefully we can see that once again and not have the meltdown on the mound and, put the Mets out of reach. You got to have them. Ahula Mets. I mean, it's too early to determine right now, Lane. Alyssa says, when are the Mets revealing their City Connect jerseys? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to say probably next year or the year after. I want to say teams are halfway. I mean, MLB's probably at least had 15 or 16, so you're halfway. And they started them 2021. So I want to say you have maybe 3 or 4 more teams introducing theirs this year. You had the Reds, you had the Orioles, and I want to say maybe 3 or 4 more teams. So I would say the Mets would probably get theirs next year. What's going on? He says, would you sign and trade, in air quotes, Vientos, Beatty, and Alvarez for Ohtani? Yeah, I mean, Ohtani. I mean, we can sit on here for 5 years and discuss what is Shohei Ohtani, what's the potential for him. And I guess just the point is I don't really know. I think if you look at it right now, the Angels are playing, a couple games over 500. And, we know that there were sayings that if the Angels fell out of contention that they would trade Ohtani. And obviously the Mets, being one of the highest payrolls in baseball, could potentially go after him. And I really don't know. I think if you look at it right now, I don't know if the Mets are in the position. I don't know. It's because if you get Ohtani, you get a pitcher, you get a bat. He brings in a lot. He fills in 2 holes. He fills a pitcher, he fills a bat, fills a DH, brings power, home runs. I think he would play well in New York if he plays good in California. And I mean, he's just inspirational player. However, you will be getting rid of more lineup holes. And that's the thing that, I mean, obviously would happen. So as of right now, I don't know about the Ohtani trade, but I definitely would be in favor of giving Beatty and Alvarez a Braves type contract. Like, the Braves, extended Michael Harris and Strider and all those guys early on. I wouldn't be against the Mets doing that for Beatty and Alvarez. Vientos, I'd wait a little, maybe in 2 months from now I'd be saying it, but he just got called up, so I'm waiting. But Beatty and Alvarez look good. Bullpen has been good. Yeah, Gio, I agree. They've been pretty good. Did the Mets call up Mike Vassell? Yeah, it's a possibility. I don't think so. I mean, he's still in Double-A. He needs plenty of time to develop. But yeah, he's been looking really good so far this season. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets the call up to Triple-A. I wouldn't be surprised maybe later this month. Mike Spy, what's going on? He says Mets should trade Vogelbach in that trade to the Reds that you mentioned earlier and take Will Myers. He literally plays like every position well and is a decent hitter. Yeah, Will Myers could be a decent guy, and I noticed he could be a decent utility guy. Decent bench bat. So honestly, that's not a horrible thing. I mean, if you were to give up Vogelbach and maybe one other guy, like a prospect or two. We'll probably have to get rid of a lot of prospects, but probably no one mid, maybe a couple single A and double A guys. I don't, obviously you wouldn't have to get rid of Alvarez, Beatty, Vientos, or Mauricio, any of those guys. You keep Vassal as well. So yeah, I mean, potentially seeing a trade of maybe Alexis Diaz and Will Myers that consists of Vogelbach and a couple double A and single A players going could be ideal. Do Matthew says, do you think the Mets are desperate for another hitter? As of right now, I'd say no. And I think the Mets got their other hitters in Alvarez, Beatty, and Vientos. Captain Morgan says Francisco Alvarez has been the second best hitting catcher in MLB over the past 30 days. Salvador Perez has a 172 WRC plus, and Alvarez has a 162 WRC plus. I'll tell you, he has been looking great. So really, tip of the cap to Francisco Alvarez for just, little slow start when he first got called up, but completely turned the attitudes of the Mets. He's hitting for power. He's getting on base. He's walking. His play discipline has improved so much. I mean, it's absolutely insane to see his play discipline. So we'll see how that can go. Wayne says, how do you feel about the Blue Jays going to the World Series? Yeah, I mean, the Blue Jays right now have been pretty decent. Like I said, if you look at that AL East division, it's a very tough and very close division. I think right now, the biggest thing is their pitching staff. Obviously, Alek Manoah, he had a great 2021 season, great season last year, was in the Cy Young contender, but hasn't been looking good so far this year. Alek Manoah hasn't been good. Jose Barrios. Essentially, their starting pitching has not really been getting the job done. Similar thing to the Mets in May. They're not going deep into games, and they're not giving their offense a chance. I'll give a tip of the cap to their offense. Matt Chapman, he's on another world. He's been hitting phenomenal, hitting much better than what he ever did in Oakland. Bo Bichette's been having a great season. I would say he's one of the best shortstops. Not good defensively, so that's kind of why I'm a little hesitant on saying that. But he's been great offensively. Vlad, everyone else has really been contributing. So I think the Blue Jays are a good team. I just think it's that division is really tough. Will the Red Sox fall off down the line? We'll see. Are the Rays going to continue to put on this historic pace that they're on? We'll see. Yankees are surviving pretty well, and that's without Rodon and Severino. They have a lot of injuries. So, yeah, we will see how that can go. Give me 1 second. Sorry, I'm just shutting off that. At the trade deadline, who are the Mets looking for? I mean, right now it's kind of a little too early to tell, but I would say right now, obviously, definitely some bullpen is something that I think any team would really go after. Bullpen, regardless, and especially since a lot of your relievers have been overtaxed this early on, but pushing way too many guys like Ottavino early on. So yeah, definitely bullpen. Potentially someone from the Reds or the Giants, White Sox. I would like to say a nice big power bat, and I'm not talking a Vogelbach, and I'm not talking Epler playing the bullshit money ball of, this guy has an XWOBA of 390 against lefties. No, I want a proven hitter, not some bullshit money ball. No, I don't want that. Because you saw what happened last year with Naquin and Vogelbach and Darren Ruff. I mean, Ruff has been with like 3 other organizations since. I think Naquin now is with the Padres, and Vogelbach has literally contributed really nothing. And Gibbons was whatever last year. He wasn't horrible, but he wasn't bad. He was kind of mid. So, I think the White Sox could be a team to explore. I mean, I don't really know how much the Mets are willing to give up. Like I said, I mean, I think the Mets can make big moves with only really touching single A and double A, and maybe getting rid of guys like Vogelbach and Guillorme and the other liabilities. I say this with pride. I think the Mets are lucky enough, and I think the Mets are going to be able to keep Alvarez, Beatty, Vientos, and Mauricio. All 4 of those guys, I think, can keep. And I think it's possible. Maybe the Mets, the White Sox, maybe a guy like Dylan Cease, Luis Robert. You never know. I wouldn't want Lance Lynn. He's too old, and the Mets have one of the oldest veteran rotations in baseball. I wouldn't really like Tim Anderson. I don't think he's a good clubhouse guy. Maybe Luis Robert, Dylan Cease potentially. Maybe Liam Hendricks. He could be a possibility. Seeing where they're at, he could be a cheaper side. Giants are definitely a team. I mean, I would be an idiot to say go after JD Davis again, considering you gave him up. But you never know. It's something, we've seen it before with teams. I'm saying maybe a team like the White Sox, Giants. Thoughts on the Tigers? What's going on, Alex? Yeah, I mean, if you look at the Tigers right now, they've actually been having a pretty decent season right now. I mean, they're 3 games under, but they definitely look much better. Started off the season abysmal, but we've been seeing, and I was watching the game last night, Torkelson and Green have been big contributors to that team. And a couple other guys that aren't really like crazy guys that stand out. Zach McKinstry's been looking good. But their pitching staff's been definitely holding down the fort. Tigers are in an interesting spot. Like I said, you really hope that never-ending rebuild that they can try and get over the hump. And can this be the year where they, will they necessarily make the playoffs, clinch a wild card spot? Maybe the last spot's possible if they get in a hot run. But the goals for the Tigers is to get over 500. 86, 76 type season, and I think you go into next year. But who knows? Maybe they'll make it this year. And I'd like them to. I like the Tigers. Good starting pitching, and finally hitting for power. No, absolutely. Do you call up David Peterson? Probably not. I'm not being tricked into that. Love the kids, LFGM. I agree, Kobe. Jesse, what's going on? He says, let's go Braves. Fellow Braves fan in the chat. Hope you're doing well, man. Yeah, Braves have been looking pretty decent. I know they had a rough week last week, but definitely seems they've turned it around, hopefully. Can the Mets sign Correa and JD Martinez? I mean, they're not going to sign Correa. I think that'd be kind of arbitrary, and Correa's been horrible, so maybe the Mets really dodged a bullet with that. I mean, he's been absolutely horrible in Minnesota, so I can only imagine if the Mets signed Correa, how bad that would be for this team. JD Martinez, yeah, he was a guy that I was interested in the Mets going after this offseason, but there was that back concern, and he's been pretty decent with the Dodgers as a DH hole, but I mean, I don't think there's any opportunity for that. Electric Voltage, fellow Phillies friend on the channel, he says Phillies aren't looking too good. Time is ticking. Yeah, Phillies just haven't really been having it at all to start off the season. They started off the season like 1-6, and then they've just been really bad. I mean, their starting pitching has been horrible to mid. Wheeler and Nola haven't been great this year. They've been, I guess, average. But then Walker's been horrible. And, I mean, I told everyone that since day one. And he's in an easier hitter's ballpark. So Taiwan Walker has been absolutely horrible. You got Ranger Suarez back, so we'll see how that goes. But, they have the liability of the 3, 4, 5 hole in the rotation being questioned. The lineup it just hasn't been there. I mean, you got Harper back, and still they're not winning ball games. And I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's Rhys Hoskins that carries the team, but we'll see. I mean, Kyle Schwarber's been horrible. I mean, he has 11 home runs, but he's batting like 110 with like an OPS of like 600 and like an OBP of like 200. Schwarber's been horrible. Trey Turner's been absolutely horrible. Was elite in the WBC, and then just, in 6 games in the WBC, he had like 5 homers, 11 RBIs. In like 50 games for the Phillies, that's literally what he has. So he's been horrible. Castellanos has been average, I guess. Harper's been good. Small sample size, but still. But, we'll see what the Phillies. Like I said, time is ticking, but I don't know if you have as much flexibility as last year. So we'll see. Matthew says, I really like Senga. His passion and discipline on the mound is superb. Yeah, I think he's a respectable ball player. I do like him. Explosive. She says JD Martinez and Conforto have looked good this year. Martinez has. Conforto hasn't been looking great. The home runs are there. The RBIs are there. But the average and the OBP are not there. If you look at Michael Conforto, like I said, you look at it, 9 home runs. Okay, that's good. 22 RBIs. That's pretty good. But then you look at the average, 231. The OBP of 321 and the OPS of 739. So he's really just hitting home runs. And then what we've been seeing is hitting home runs, striking out, walking, and grounding out. So, I had that 4 strikeout game against Miami. Oof. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not really missing Conforto. If there's anyone from the Giants, I think it's J.D. Davis. He's been having a really good season. Yeah, Lane, hopefully you heard my little rant on that, but I don't think they will. Yeah, no, I agree. The explosive, it absolutely is. Explosives, I think the Mets miss on Ohtani. He goes to the Dodgers or Yanks, and Mets get Soto in 2025. Okay, that's an interesting take. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, we could sit here for hours and talk about Ohtani. That's kind of just the never-ending thing. But Soto could be a potential guy. You think Canna's struggling with the pitch clock? Yeah, Captain Morgan, I mean, that's a good question. Maybe. I know it sounds like a dumb answer, but maybe. We know that, and we said it last stream that Mark Canna's a guy who kind of likes to take his time in between at bats. He likes to observe. He said when he got called out on that strike clock violation in the Milwaukee series that he likes to observe and kind of watch the jumbo board and see the velocity and the pitch, and it kind of helps him plan. And obviously with the pitch clock, I don't think he has that much as an option. But you know what? I tell him. Spring training, maybe instead of him running around Port St. Lucie exploring restaurants with this big league foodie channel, he should have, focused on it more. And you notice some guys started off in the beginning having a hard time adapting, and now they're getting used to it, where Canna still isn't. So he had a good week, but I don't know. Jesse says Sean Murphy is better than Francisco Alvarez. I mean, yeah, right. I'll give you that this year. I mean, Sean Murphy has been really good. For you guys, Sean Murphy has been driving in runs, home runs, RBIs, average OPS. I would say arguably, besides Acuna, he's the Braves' best hitter. Where's Jeremy Murphy now? He is with the Long Island Ducks. Can the Mets make the playoffs? Yeah, I think it's possible. Cal says Pete Alonso is a man on a mission. His bat is on fire. It absolutely is. I mean, he's having a heck of a season once again. Haley says just put McNeil in left and stop playing Pham. Don't understand that, especially after an off day. Yeah, I don't really know why that is. I don't know. Maybe it's McNeil's numbers against Smiley. But yeah, I mean, Tommy Pham, I mean, regardless, everyone's like, oh, Pham hits well against lefties. We've seen one game this season of that. Michael says Lane Craner, he is with the Long Island Ducks. Yes, he is. Explosive says Blue Jays have been such a disappointment. Yeah, they've been rough. Yeah, Pirates are a team that I didn't really expect a lot. They started off good and kind of sinking since. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, you got McCutchen. We'll see if it's his last year. Maybe next year will be. But they have good young talent. So yeah. But yeah, we are probably going to get ready to call it a stream here. So if anyone else wants to drop a final comment or two, please do. Otherwise, I do appreciate everyone for tuning into today's stream as always. Phenomenal stream. Appreciate everybody for absolutely tuning into today's stream. But yeah, I think we're gonna call it a stream here. Obviously, in today's stream, we went over the New York Mets and the Cleveland Guardians series preview or series summary. My apologies. Essentially going over the good, the bad, and the ugly. Really just the good because the Mets swept. We went over the New York Mets and the Chicago Cubs series preview, what to expect, what to hope for. Can the Mets continue to ride on that morale and high momentum? We went over the Mets farm system, a couple other teams in baseball like the Tigers, the Giants, the White Sox, the Yankees, the Marlins. So, yeah, and then, of course, the farm system and other baseball players and all of that great stuff. So, yeah, I think, like I said, I appreciate everyone for tuning into today's stream. As always, we are going to call it a stream. Everyone, please feel free to give this video a like, comment, subscribe, turn on those post notifications, tell your friends about this channel, smash that like button if you are rewatching this on replay, comment, let me know. I appreciate you for sticking out for the hour mark just about. We are approaching that in a couple of minutes. Yeah, I do appreciate everybody for tuning in as always. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do at Mets Hayden. In terms of future content, as you know, Talking Mets with Rob and I have the Shea Bridge podcast every Sunday. We did it yesterday. My connection was a little crappy in the hotel, but I am back in Florida, as you guys can tell. So definitely good to be back and good for the Mets to be back. Hopefully we will see if the Mets can continue to carry on their playing. Hopefully they can continue to play well and play elite, because I'll tell you, the Mets, They need to play well. And ideally, I would say going into it, obviously, you play 3 against the Cubs in Chicago, and then after that, you're going to the Rockies, which we'll talk about next stream, but you're playing 3 against the Rockies. I would like to say if the Mets can go 2 out of 3 against the Cubs, I think they'll lose tonight, take 2 or 3. I think that's a fair assumption. 2 or 3, I'll be happy. 1 of 3, I'll be very upset. Sweep, I'll be phenomenally happy. I'll be ecstatic. Like I said, Mets got to carry that momentum. And I think I'm positive. I think they have the good energy. They have the morale. They have the good vibes. And the chemistry is back. We're seeing they're hitting with 2 outs. They're hitting with runners in scoring position. They're hitting for power, extra base hits, launch angle, more power. The pitching has been looking much better. They're going deeper into games, giving the bullpen and the team a chance. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. Otherwise, I appreciate everybody for tuning in today's stream. Like I said, give this video a like, comment, subscribe, turn on those post notifications. Tell your friends about this channel. Let's get to 800 subscribers. I don't know, by a month or so. Just a random day. But, yeah, otherwise, I appreciate it. Till next time, baseball fans, LFGM, let's go Mets, and let's win a series against the Chicago Cubs. Till next time, baseball fans, see ya.